And so you mentioned earlier a bit about assumptions that you might have had before coming to China, whether it's
True.
communism or these kind of pollution.
Yes.
And I'd be interested to know, since you've been here, how have those assumptions been challenged? What have you learned? What has changed about your idea of what China's actually like?
It's a good question, man. And I get this all the time, sometimes because, people know me as your China guy, because we can talk about it later, how this came to be. But, people know me as a person that talks about China all the time, But, I always say, I'm not here to promote China as the best country and the best market for everybody, right? Like, there is always pros and cons. It doesn't matter if you're in Africa, it doesn't matter if you're in Czech Republic, or it doesn't matter if you're in the US, there's always pros and cons. But what I'm trying to do is, I'm trying to show people what we are doing and how, entrepreneurs behave or how they build companies in China. And, it blew my mind. Like, honestly, I moved to Shenzhen. I never heard about Shenzhen before moving to China. I only heard about Shanghai and Beijing and maybe Guangzhou because of the fair, right? The Canton Fair. But I never knew about Shenzhen. And then I go to Shenzhen, and I first moved to Shenzhen, and I'm like, this is crazy. Like, there is maybe 15, 20 million people, skyscrapers. It's extremely developed city. It's much more developed than Prague or than Czech Republic and even cities in the US, when you look at the infrastructure, electric buses, electric cars everywhere and skyscrapers everywhere. So I was blown away, and plus you see that it's a good place to live because the pollution is basically not there. It's very similar to Hong Kong. Of course, from time to time you can have pollution, I'm not gonna say no, but most of the time you have blue sky and you can go for a run without mask and without worrying about yourself. I was like, this is not the China that I had in my mind as a picture before going here, because as I said, in the media you only hear things that gonna make people share stuff and talk about stuff, right? And so that was interesting, and going back to your question, how it shifted, for me, I have that kind of, I like that kind of angle that I always want to learn, right? I don't want to judge, or I don't want to, be negative about stuff. I want to learn. I always want to get the most out of every opportunity that I get. And for me, China is extremely huge opportunity. I want to learn about the culture. I want to learn about the language. I want to learn about how business is done. Is it through government? Maybe, yes, most of the time. I want to understand why, and I want to understand how I can use that to build a business, and I want to understand many different things that are so unique for this country and for the region, as Asia, in many aspects, they're similar, but of course they're so different at the same time. So, to me, it's not about judging, it's more about opening myself up to the opportunities that China offers. And I want to understand how we can leverage it. I'm very practical, in this sense. So it opened my mind, and I just think that there's so many things we can learn from China. China can learn from us as well, for sure. They have many problems they have to solve, but we can learn, about building huge companies and scaling companies and stuff like that from them too.